Okay, so for the warm-up, what does it mean to square something? For example, what does 5 squared mean? Does anybody want to kind of explain what squared? Sure. Exactly, yep. So, squared, when you multiply a number by itself. Good. So then 5 squared, you just multiply 5 times itself, so what would that be? 25. Good. Yep. All right. You have kept a log of a gift card, and it is shown how much money would you have to add if you want to give the card to a friend and have it worth $25. So let's just kind of go through real quick. Start with 50. So when you spend 19, how much do you have on there? Hmm? 31. Good. Okay, so we're at 31, and then we subtract 29. Then where are we at? 2. Yeah, and then add 25. So where are we at? 27. Subtract 13. 14. So there's $14 now on that gift card. If I want it to be $25, how much do I have to add there? 11. Good. All right. Do we feel okay with that stuff? Yeah. Cool. All right. So for the next 2 lessons, we're pretty much just doing like operations with numbers. I think the book keeps it all together, but we split it up into 2. So we're just doing integers and decimals today. And then we're going to do all the fractions on Monday just because it was like a lot altogether. Okay. So your objective is SWBAT. Do you guys remember what that stands for? Yep, students will be able to. Yep. Students will be able to find sums, differences, products, and quotients of integers and decimals. So that is a lot of vocab, a lot of math words. So let's kind of go through that. So what operation are we talking about when we say sums? Adding. Yep. What about differences? Subtracting, and then products. Yep. Multiplying, and what about quotients? Division. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So then we know what decimals are. Integers we talked about yesterday. So if you remember, integers are the category that include the positive whole numbers, 0, and the negative whole numbers. So basically all like your number line numbers. Okay. So we're going to start with adding and subtracting of whole numbers, integers. How do I want to say this? So everybody kind of, like if you were to like crack open all of your guys' brains and try to figure out like how you're doing this in your head, everybody's probably going to have a slightly different way, right? So I just picked 2 that seem to be like pretty common of the way people are kind of picturing this in their head. If you do it a different way, that's totally fine. If you like one of these versus the other, you hate one of them, but you like one of them, that's great too. So just kind of keep in mind that even if something might seem like it doesn't make sense to you, maybe to somebody else, they're like, oh, that actually makes sense, because all of us kind of think differently, okay? So some people, it seems like they have, like, I don't know, raise your hand if this is you, but if you feel like you have kind of like a whiteboard in your head that you can just kind of like picture things happening on, like you can just visualize things that way when you're thinking about it. Yeah. So some people are like that, some people aren't. It's like, I read all this stuff about it. It's actually interesting. So if you're that type of person that you can just kind of like visualize and draw things and picture it, then this way might be one of the ways that you might think about this. If not, then maybe the next way is going to be more, or you might have your own. So we're going to just kind of do it, and you just kind of make your choice. So this is using a number line. You can also kind of modify this if you're more into sports and that makes sense to you. Instead of a number line, you could picture it as like a football field or a soccer field or something. That seems to kind of help. But basically, if you have two matching signs, you're always going to move to the right. If you have two different signs, you're moving to the left. So what I mean by that is if you are subtracting a negative number, you're moving to the right. If you're adding a positive number, you're moving to the right. Okay? If you are adding a negative, it's to the left. Subtracting a positive is to the left. Okay? So if we look at this, so the first one's just 3 plus 5. We all know what 3 plus 5 is. But to just kind of start small, you're always going to start with the first number. Here we're adding a positive. So what direction would that be? To the right. Yep. So you're starting at 3. Going to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to end up being 8. Okay? 3 plus negative 5. We're adding a negative. So what direction is that? Left. So still start at 3, but this time go to the left. So you're at negative 2. Okay, so I kind of, whenever I was trying to think about how I do this in my head, and this is, I do like a couple different ways, but this is one of the ways that I think I was doing it, just kind of like picturing something moving back and forth, okay, on a number line. Do I ever expect you to actually draw a number line out and do this? No, that would be insane, okay? But you could just kind of visually see it as like a field or a number line and just think about things moving one direction or the other, right? So then, am I good to switch it? Yeah, okay. So let's go to the next ones. We're going to try to kind of do this fast because there's a lot of them. All right, so the next one is negative 3 plus 5. Same thing, we're just starting with a negative instead. So we're adding a positive, so that's to the right. Start at negative 3 and move it to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to end up at 2. And then negative 3 plus negative 5, adding a negative is to the left. But we're starting at negative 3 and then go to left. So we end at negative 8. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So the next one it's still a problem, not a got it. I just wanted to kind of separate the addition and the subtraction out. So for this one, 2 minus negative 4, you're subtracting a negative. Same sign, so what direction? So right, yep. That's why you guys have kind of been trained. If it's 2 negatives, you make the big plus sign because it's the same thing as plus plus, okay? So start at 2. Move to the right 4. So that's going to be 6. This is the main one that's kind of tricky. So when you have subtraction, you can either see that minus sign as subtraction, or you can see it as a negative sign that goes with the 4, but you can't really see that as both, okay? So if we're seeing it as a subtraction, then that 4 is technically a positive 4. So this would be subtracting a positive number. So what direction would that be? Left, yep. So start at 2, go to left 4, so you get negative 2. We're at this one, we're subtracting a negative again, so that's to the right. So negative 2, right 4, so you get positive 2. If I'm going too fast at any point, yell at me, I'll go slower. I just don't want to like have you guys wanting me to go faster, okay? If you guys can keep up. And then this last one, it's subtracting a positive 4, so go to the left. Negative 2 minus 4, so you get negative 6. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. When you're ready, go ahead and just do those last two right there, the got it's, A and B. Okay. Are you ready to go over this, you think? Good? Cool. All right, so for this first one, -8 plus 4. There we go. We're adding a positive, so what direction is that? Right, yep. So start at -8, right 4. So you should have gotten -4. This one, we are subtracting a positive, so left, start at 9, left 6. So you get 3. Okay? So that is one way of kind of visualizing it. Now we're going to switch and just kind of look at it a different way. The next way is going to be more of those kind of like shortcut rules that you guys have probably learned. Maybe you learned like a song of some kind that goes along with it. We're not going to do the song. But we're going to go over the rules. So the rules are a little bit lengthy if you want to kind of go straight by the rules. And something about these is that the rules only really work for addition, but you can kind of get away with doing most of the subtraction ones without having to do a certain step. When we get to subtraction, I'll show you subtraction, okay? So basically what the rules are, if you have the same sign, you're going to add them together, and then whatever the sign was that they both were, you just keep at the same sign for your answer, okay? If your numbers have different signs, then you're going to subtract the values, and then whatever the sign of the bigger one is what the sign of your answer is going to be, okay? We're going to come back to these rules when we get to subtraction, but let's just start there. So to be honest, I don't really ever just kind of memorize these rules and do it straight away like that. So I'm going to kind of mix it with something. So here, if I have -12 plus 7, so what this is saying is, do those have same signs or different signs? Different signs, right? We have a negative and a positive. So that means you're going to subtract them. So you have different signs. So that means you subtract. Bigger minus smaller always, so what's 12 minus 7? Equals 5. And then you have to take the sign of the bigger number. So since 12 is bigger than 7 as its own value, that means that our answer is going to be negative, so you get -5 as your answer. So that's very, very like math, okay? The way that I kind of think about this instead of that is, do you guys know those like scale things that have things on both sides? Yeah, those like old school things? Okay. So I kind of picture one of these guys, and you have a positive side and a negative side. So the -12, that means it's going to go on the negative side. You have a positive 7 going on the positive side, right? So you kind of have pairs canceling out. So if I have 12 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 7 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you cancel out like a positive with every negative and see what you have left, so cancel that with that, that with that, that with that. What do you have left here?
Negative.
You have negatives. How many negatives? 5, right? So that's what I kind of find myself doing, is like just kind of canceling pairs out that zero out and seeing what's left over, okay? And you might think about it a totally different way. It's totally up to you. So that's the only time I'm going to do one more for the same signs, and then we're just going to literally do it in our heads, okay? So if you have -18 and -2, what the rules say is same sign, so you add. So you do 18 plus 2, which is what? 20, yep. And then you keep the sign that they both were. So since they were both negative, you're going to get -20. Okay? That's like what the textbook rules tell you to do. The way that I kind of think about it this way is if you have that same kind of scale happening, you have a negative 18, so it's over here, a negative 2, so it's here. So since they're both on the same side, they kind of like join forces and like combine together to make it even heavier. So that's how you get overall a negative 20. Or if you're into sports, think about it as you lost 18 yards, you lost 2 yards, so overall you lost 20, okay? However it works for you. So now we have to review decimals. So we're going to go like 4th grade old school, okay? So when we're subtracting, your decimals have to line up. Always do bigger minus smaller. So do 9.5 minus 4.8. Can you do 5 minus 8? No. So you guys remember what you have to do? So you're going to borrow 1, so that's going to be an 8, and that turns to a 15. And then what's 15 minus 8? 7. 8 minus 4? 4. Okay. So here, which one is bigger, the positive one or the negative one? The positive one, right? So overall, your answer is going to be a positive. Okay. So now we're going to kind of go a little bit faster, not really explain it out so much. So now we're going to do subtraction. So if you go back up to the rules, have you guys ever heard the phrase keep, change, change?
Yeah.
I know you guys have done keep, change, flip for like fractions. It seems like keep, change, change is kind of making an exit. So what keep, change, change is it's basically what you do when you have something like this. So you guys have had it like ingrained into you that what do you do when you have two negatives like that next to each other? What does that mean?
You change the negative sign to a positive and then change the negative sign to a positive.
Exactly, yep. So the two negative signs just kind of form one big plus, right? That's what keep, change, changes. So it's keeping this one, keeping that at negative 8, changing this sign in the middle, so subtraction becomes addition, and then changing the sign of this, so negative 13 becomes positive 13, okay? That's really the only time that you really need to follow keep, change, change. You can get away with not doing it for the rest of them, okay? So negative 8 plus 13, you know you're going to have to like subtract because they're opposites. So what are we going to get with that? 5, yep. All right, so on this one, technically what the book wants you to do when it's teaching how to do this, it wants you to rewrite that problem as 3.5 plus negative 12.4 so that you can like clearly see the signs of both of the numbers. I think you can skip it unless you think that you need it, but you guys can see that this is a positive 3.5, and you guys can see that that counts as a negative 12.4, right? Because it's subtraction. Are you guys able to do that? Like you guys see that as a negative number? Yes, no? Like does that, to you guys, say negative 12.4? Like do you count that as a negative? Yeah. Yes, okay, then you're good. You don't need to rewrite it like this then, as long as you can see that. So decimals again, bigger minus smaller. It doesn't matter about the signs at first. All right, so you can't do 4 minus 5, 11. So that's going to be 9. 11 minus 3 is 8. So now which one is bigger, positive or negative? The negative, yep. So it's going to be a negative 8.9. And then for that last one, so again, if you guys can see this, if you look at this and you see a negative 9 and another negative 9, then you're good. If you can't, then you should rewrite it as negative 9 plus negative 9, like that. Okay? Either way, what's the answer? Negative 18. Yep. All right, do we have any questions on that? Cool. Okay, if you have not done so yet, go ahead and do those last 4 at the bottom of that page. And then I'll give you the answers and see if you got it right, and then we'll move on.
But for this one, you do 18 plus 9, right? Because that'd be 32 and then 32 minus 9 is 18. Sorry, like 18 plus 9 and then.
Yes. Yeah. Are we ready, you think? Yeah? Okay, I'm just going to give you guys the answers. And then if something's confusing or you got it wrong, then speak up, okay? So for A, you should have gotten negative 24.1. For B, you get negative 2. For C, you get negative 8. And then for D, you get 13.5. All right, any questions on that? Yeah.
Can you show me how you did number 8?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So for that one, since they have, they're both negatives, then you just add them together. So the adding them together is, yeah, we haven't looked at one like that. So you have to line up the decimals for addition and subtraction. So you would do like a 16, but then you'd have to do 8.1 like that, and basically add like a 0.0 to make sure that it's all lined up. So then you just go straight down, so that'd be 14, like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I literally had to review that too, and I was like, I'm sorry, what do I do with decimals again? It's been a very long time. All right, otherwise, anything else on here before we keep going? Okay, so I think that's it for addition and subtraction, right? Yep, okay. So now on to multiplication and division. So these rules are a lot more to the point, okay? So for both multiplication and division, if your stuff has the same sign, your answer is going to be positive. Different signs, your answer is going to be negative, okay? Grab it from one. Okay, so for this one, you have 12 times negative 8. Is your answer going to be positive or negative on that? Negative. So I like to just put a negative, and then I'll do the multiplication because I am the worst at like doing it and then just forgetting, okay? So then do 12 times 8. Okay, so 2 times 8 is 16, so you pull that 1 up. 1 times 8 is 8, plus the 1 is 9, and then you'll just add that on to the negative. All right, so next one, 24 times 0.5. I'm going to do it out because I think you guys need to see a multiplication with a decimal, but then I'll tell you guys kind of a different way of doing it too. So if you do 24 times 0.5, for multiplication, you do not have to line up the decimal. So basically everything just kind of like pushes to the right as much as it can, okay? All right, so 4 times 5 is 20. And then 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. And then I'm not going to do the zeros. It's pointless. So the rule for this is you need to count how many numbers come after a decimal point in the problem and then match that for the answer, okay? So here, we have one number, the 5, that comes after a decimal. So we need to have one number here that comes after a decimal, so you put it right there. So what's our answer going to be? 12. Yep. The way that I would actually probably do this one is I would look at that 0.5 as like a 1/2, and then you could just do like 1/2 of 24 to get your answer. Okay? All right, and then this last one, -3 squared with parentheses. So that's going to be -3 times -3, which is what? +9. Okay, and then I have something that we have to add on this one, because I know it's going to come up at some point, and I don't want you guys to get it wrong if it does come up. So this is just kind of one of those things that I can explain to you why, and I will briefly, why this is the way it is, but it's probably not going to make sense, and it's just, you just kind of have to like just accept it as a fact, okay? So when you have parentheses around this -3, that basically groups the negative and the 3 together, making them the one thing. If you don't have the parentheses, and you just have this, -3 squared, what ends up happening there, because of like order of operations, which we're going to do next week, that answer is actually -9. Because math and your calculator both see this as like negative whatever 3 squared is, because exponents kind of are like high up on the priority list. So it does the exponent first and then tacks on the negative to your answer. Okay, so this is actually negative, basically whatever 3 times 3 is. So you get -9. If you don't believe me, put it in your calculator, both of them, and you'll see, with parentheses and without parentheses. It always ends up coming up somewhere and confusing everybody, so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to go over it again, but just so you know. Yeah.
Wait, so I've like in the diagnostic we had a question without the parentheses and with it, so
Mhm.
would the thing would happen or would like -9?
Yeah. So, and it also kind of depends on what the exponent is, because if it's even, then that's going to be positive. If you have an odd exponent, it doesn't matter because both of them are going to be negative anyway. Okay? So, yeah, it just kind of depends. So let that just sit in your brain somewhere. It's not going to come up again for a little bit, and then when it does, then we'll go back to it. Okay? All right. So now, division. So we are pretty much done with division signs, just so you guys know. We don't really use them ever. The only time you might see one is when we do order of operations, like the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, like that's 1.4 next week Thursday. But then after that, we just don't see them anymore. We always pretty much use fractions for division. So we're going to review long division really quick. So this is just 1 divided by 4. So the way that you set this up, 1 on the inside, 4 on the outside. So this one's a little bit weird. So does 4 go into 1? No. So do you guys remember what you add? A 0. What else? A decimal. Good, yeah. So you're going to add a decimal and a 0. So now does 4 go into 10?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, how many times?
2.
2. And that's going to make 8. And you have 2 left over. So you're just going to basically add another 0 on. That's me 20. 4 into 20? 5. And that takes care of all of it, right? So you get 0.25. All right, one more time, let's do it, and then we probably won't do it for the last one. So I know that my answer is going to be a negative, so I'm just going to put my negative. So 36 on the inside, 2 on the outside. How many times is 2 going to 3? Yep, once. Makes 2. 1 left over. So that's going to be a 16 now. What about 2 into 16? 8, and that's going to take care of all of it. So we're going to have negative 18 as the answer. Got it? Okay. Does anybody need to see that process again, or are we able to just say what this is? Good? Okay, so what did you guys get here? 12. Yep. So So 144 divided by 12 is 12, and they also have the same sign, so they kind of cancel out to a positive. Okay? Any questions on that? All right, so you guys do those next 6 problems, and stop when you get to the word problem, and we'll do that together. And I'll give you guys the answers in a couple minutes and see if you're getting them right. Be very, very careful on some of them. Yeah, will you grab your planner just because I think we're starting to check them? Okay. Thank you. And then remember, guys, when you get done with the got it, the homework is after that, so you can start kind of doing some problems and get ahead. All right, guys, take like 1 more minute on these if you're still working. Search at the beginning. Please make sure you fill in those 3 because they usually check them. There you go. Okay? And then take that with you. Guys, that just made me think of it. A little tip: if you can find a random paper clip in your planner, you paper clip those sections together so you can open right to the bathroom passage at the time. It'll save you a lot of headache. Okay. All right, guys, let's go over this. I'm just gonna give you the answers, and then if there's one that you didn't get right that you want to go over, just let me know. Okay. So this one, you should have gotten -90. Is it 2.4?
That's what I.
Yeah, good, cool. 2.4. Positive 16. Positive 4. Negative 0.2. What do you guys think the most common wrong answer I get on E is?
-5.
Negative 5, yeah. So just pay close attention with the fractions where the bigger number is. So if the bigger number is on top, then you're going to get that above 1 number. But if the smaller number is on top, then you know it's going to be like a decimal like that, okay? And then you should get, all right. Any questions on any of those? We're all good? Cool. All right. So now we're going to just do a couple of word problems. Don't freak out. They're very simple word problems. All right. So for problem 7, a reef explorer dives 25 feet to photograph brain coral and then rises 16 feet to travel over a ridge before diving 47 feet to survey the base of the reef. Then the diver rises 29 feet to see an underwater cavern. What is the location of the cavern in relation to sea level? So we're going to just kind of assume that this diver started at sea level, and we're going to call that 0, okay? So they're starting at 0. The point of this question is pretty much for you to figure out if certain words mean addition or mean subtraction, okay? So here, diving 25 feet, is that going to be up or down? Down, right? So it's going to be minus 25. All right, and then rising 16 feet, was that be up or down? Up, yep, so plus 16. All right, and then what about diving 47? Down. And then rising 29. Up, yep. So then from there, you're just kind of working your way left to right, like in order of the time. So if you're starting at 0 and then you're going down 25, then you're going to be at negative 25. All right, and then if you're at negative 25, you're going up 16. Is that negative 9? Negative 9? Yeah, okay. Negative 9 minus 47 plus 29. Okay, and then you're starting down, you're going more down, so you're going to have negative 56. And then you're going up that 29 feet. So what are we going to be at overall? Yep, negative 27. All right, are we good there? Let's have one more. This is like the longest lesson you'll do all year. All right. Like that for a minute. Go ahead if you want to try the next one and like guess at what you think it's going to be. Feel free. All right. Okay, for this last one, a skydiver's elevation changes by negative 3,600 feet in 4 minutes after the parachute opens. What is the average change in the skydiver's elevation each minute? So you're doing something out of 4 minutes, and you're trying to now get it out of 1 minute. So what operation do you guys think we're doing? Division, yep. So we are going down 3,600 feet, and that's happening over the course of 4 minutes. So let's divide those to get it out of 1 minute. So how many feet per minute am I going down? Yep, so going down 900 feet per minute. So keep in mind that's just an average. So that doesn't mean that you're for sure going 900 every single minute exactly. You might be going more in 1 minute, but then you'd compensate by going less in another. It's just asking for the average, okay? Any questions? Cool. All right, so I will put up your lesson check problems, and you guys can get those done. Okay. So for all of these, the directions are basically just like get the answer in one of the ways you know how. Okay, so like use a number line, use any of the methods we talked about, your own method, however you want to do it, just get the answer, okay? All right, so I'll put those up in a couple minutes, the answers. Are we good to see the answers? Yeah? Okay, cool. So there's that. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you guys still have like 6-ish minutes. You can probably get like quite a few problems done in 6 minutes.